Today we really are looking forward to a couple of things. It's supposed to be a day we'll be able to paint, and we'll do the next coat on Turbo Steve's fuel tank. That's always nice if we can get him to the Javits show, and of course he really enjoys that. I enjoyed it a few times, but I'm just too old to hang around and talk to a bunch of salesmen right now. Anyway, I'm looking around. I've got to plan out a day for a lot of reasons. I'm going to be able to paint, so I'm going to try to do that first. I have some time. I want to try to lay out the other side cover for this motorcycle. The first side, I couldn't have been happier, and I'm going to see, maybe I can work on that too if I get done with the paint work. But I always like to look around and see, well, there's always some maintenance to do on something. There's always, when you have old motorcycles and you live in an old house and you're old, you always have something. You never have to worry about having something to do. And you never have to worry about the fish. Are they going to be hungry? Hungry? Are you kidding me? Hungry? What's hungry? Anyway, we always try to take care of all these things before we get sorted out and figure out what we're going to do. But the good news is, the absolute good news, it will be a really good day to paint. The next color will be black on Steve's gas tank. Not a cloud in the sky, and there's no chance at all of going for a ride today. I don't have to even make a decision because my grandson is coming over and staying over overnight, or staying till midnight. I don't know yet. And the leaves are truly beautiful, but we're entering the point of the year where they're not that beautiful. You got to rake them up and put them in bags. And one thing I've been thinking about, because I'm going to have a little spare time today, I was thinking about trying to come up with what I hope is going to be. See, we want to do that, hopefully get that logo worked out, and maybe, Karen even suggested, she says, you need something on the bottom of the fairing here. So I brought out my little arrowheads, and I was looking at, and I don't know. That's going to be a decision we have to make at some future time or while paint is drying. So tentatively the plan is I'm going to try to get the black paint on Turbo Steve's tank, and whatever time I have left between then and whatever time Miles is going to be here, I'm going to try to work on, maybe what I can do today is get that piece just tack glued in place so I can see what it's actually going to look like when it's in carbon fiber, and if all goes well, really even get one coat of clear on it so I can get the look of, see what I'm looking for is I want to take it out in the sun and see what it's going to look like outside, and then try to decide on this lower fairing thing. And I don't know. It's going to be challenging. So we're already thinking about what this logo the logo is going to look like. These are the things that really worked out way better than I thought they would. And wow, I want to show this. This gold paint that I mixed, I'm in love with it. The test that a little test that I did, and I made the carbon fiber part, and I went out and bought 6 more of these. They're $6 each, by the way. So basically I have $36 worth of pigment. I think I can paint a car with that much paint. But that's going to allow me, and see, I don't know, since I laid this out several times, having these patterns just can give me a little bit of a look of how that's going to look. And that's something I'm going to be thinking about all the while I'm working today. But the priority that I want to get today, because we have a beautiful day to paint, I want to lay this out. I have to just mimic where he has the stripe here. And this is a 1/4 inch stripe. And then I'm going to back mask out all the red and paint the black. And that'll be the goal for, well, the goal for today once we get the shop in operation. The West 207, and this is expensive stuff, by the way. This really, I think it's going to be perfect. You don't see what the weave looks like until you put the clear on. And I don't know if I want to leave it carbon fiber, or if I want to, as an example, I want to cover it all with carbon fiber, or paint it black. I don't know yet. But I know this thing, I didn't like the look of this. I'm going to try to make some replacement, something for that. That's just a little, like a doodad thing. But this worked out perfectly. And now here's another tip. Anytime I make a sheet of carbon fiber, never throw it away. I have a drawer full of scraps, because every little piece, sometime, and I'll give you an example, on the 750 Kawasaki, I had to make a key extension, and I made it out of carbon fiber scrap that I already had. So this is now something I can use. This piece is ready to make the attachment to the motorcycle. But the first thing, even more important than Turbo Steve's bike, is I have to have a cup of coffee. This is pretty funny. That coffee tastes so good when it gets chilly like this. Now my boss has advised me I have limited time today to work on motorcycles because I know what she's going to do. You see what this is? We are going to make homemade candy. It's called bark. And I'm going to have to be the, the official candy taster. So I hate it, but somebody's got to do it. Now it's always funny. This time of year, I always like to buy new tape in the beginning of the year. See, this is from the FZR. And I still got some left over, some overage, but I'm not sure I have any 1/4 inch here. Yeah, that's a problem. Because this is a 1/4 inch stripe, and I don't want, if I don't have, oh, here we go. Look at this. See? When you save everything, they call me a shit saver. And they're right. I do have a roll of 1/4 inch. See, Steve, this is your lucky day, Steve. So a couple of things are of value. I always have some of the original paperwork, even for Vlad's Benelli and all of the exotic bikes, so I can see when they need to be repaired. So this is funny, just looking at this, I'm just thinking maybe on the bottom of the fairing in that little spot, I could do up a little ninja sticker. That's a possibility. Well, again, John and I are going to confer on it, and you never have too many ideas. So anyway, I wanted to just mention another thing that's probably worth knowing. Having fresh tape. Yeah, you can use this up if you have to. Like right now, I would have to take an hour out of the day and run to Gavin's to buy fresh tape. This will be fine for one stripe. But if we were doing an exotic thing where there's all kinds of edges and angles, well, I'd go buy another roll of tape. Or something like that FZR paintwork where there's literally hundreds of hours involved in it. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. That's good quality information. I need to lay out this stripe now. And I don't think it's going to be real high tech. It's not going to be a chip fooser. Let's see, it's just under. And again, because Steve is going to this big Javits show, really would like to have him. Well, if he doesn't win, I'm going to double the price. It's as simple as that. And Ray has been in Florida. Ray has been to several bike shows with my original race bike that I restored for him. And he's won them all. The trophies are right on the wall over there. So Ray, you're famous, you're popular. What do I get out of it? A trophy. What good is that? I need pizza. Okay, that looks pretty much like what we got. We'll do the other side. But it's always real handy to have one of these. Steve had a couple of them here. I always like to save the templates. I saved all the templates for making that side piece because you never know when you're going to need it again. And in this case, when we did this original tank, we didn't know we're going to have to make another tank. So we're ready to backmask this, and it should be a relatively straightforward job to backmask it. I prefer using, and I always thank the late Walt Prey for sharing it with us, California Custom Car Painter, that was very generous in sharing information. Try to leave about, well, maybe 1/4 inch. And anytime you have a valley like we have here, you pop it into the valley first. And while you're doing this, you always say, well, pretend you're Chip Foose or something that you really know what you're doing. It's not important as long as you get it backmasked. It doesn't really have to be that fancy. Okay, a tip. I always take, just to take some of the tackiness out of the tape, because I don't really need a tape edge, so there's no point in worrying about that tackiness. This part I can get this much, get down into the valley. kind of straightforward. Not much high-tech stuff going on here, but okay, so we are totally ready to paint. I'm just waiting a little while. It warms up. It was in the very high 30s. I'd like it to at least be 40 degrees before I paint. I'll mix up the black, clean the gun, get it all ready, and we're ready to paint black. Don't you just love that sound? The world's quietest compressor. Alright, now that's going to sit. Let it sit out in the sun while Karen has come to the window and told me it's time to make candy. A good time to take a break. Now that's great that we got that done on such a nice day. Actually, it's a good riding day today. But riding, painting, you still need good weather. And when Steve gets that big trophy down at Javits and he takes the check and says, "Wendy, let's split it down the middle." You get a slice of pizza and I get a slice. Now here's what's really priceless about having Windy videos. This time of year when you may or may not get a ride, and we know we're not going to see the guys on a regular basis, it's so nice to just, when I'm sitting here getting ready for Karen to make that bark, get all the stuff ready. Oh my God, this was a two-stroke day, and there's Vince on the BMW. You just, what great memories. Oh, old Joe giving me the finger. This is all, the reason I'm so passionate about the video is because what happens is all winter, who's that? Ugh. Oh my God, get a facelift already. What happens is all the time you're spending the summer and you're having these good times. Now we're going to be entering a part of the year right now where all we're going to have to do is look at videos while it's snowing outside. But great memories of these two-stroke. Oh my God, look here comes Turbo Steve. Oh, he must come to pick up his gas tank. This is what makes these Windy videos priceless. And in fact, you can just go back and watch them all winter, and we will. Steve, I got to tell you something, Steve. Putting a lot of work in your tank. Maybe this will be a 2-slice of pizza a week. Anyway, I'm going up to make candy. Okay, step one is we got to melt the chocolate. We're making chocolate bark today in Karen's Candy Factory. Ooh. So the way this happens is you boil water, and then you put, what do? We put this on top? I forget.
Yes.
Put this on top, under the boiling water, and that's going to melt all the chocolate. Then of course I'm going to eat a few. She won't see that.
This is Halloween candy.
I got to try this. I got to make sure it's tasty.
There are M&M's, Milky Ways, and Twix.
What else? And what is this, pretzels? You're putting pretzels in this thing too?
Yes.
The cookie pans are ready?
So it's salt and sweet.
The carbon fiber's ready?
Carbon fiber, I don't think so.
This is more fun than carbon fiber. You can't eat carbon fiber. Okay, so our purpose is the boiling water heats the chocolate without burning it. I guess that's in the recipe, right, Care?
I just know how to do this.
Okay, you just know. You know how to make carbon fiber parts, right?
I've made this several years ago on Christmas.
I know, I gained a lot of weight from it. This is the easy part. So as I'm doing this, I'm being trained, and I'm going to teach Karen how to use West resin. She's going to teach me how to boil chocolate. I guess
how to melt chocolate.
But how to melt chocolate. It's very labor intensive here. Boy, is this going to be good when it's done. We've already made this. I know it's good. Oh, it smells so good. That really smells good. So now that the chocolate's melted, we got to bring it over here to there's our extra ingredients. We got to pour it out on the trays and then add the topping. and then put it in the freezer to freeze.
No,
And what's it
no,
called?
No, not
What
in
a
the freezer.
freeze, just the refrigerator. What's it called? Bark.
Bark. Halloween candy bark.
Woof, woof. Now what we're doing, we're going to bring this down to our friends in Cape May that we go to visit every year. This is how we paid them for the rental. Oh my God, is this good. If you only knew how good this smells, baby. That is great. So now the boss says we got to put it in the fridge and get it cold, and then I can eat one and we'll bring one to our guests. Yeah, that's got to sit in the fridge for 20 minutes, she said. So while she's doing that, I'm going to go fit that part. Maybe I can get that part and work on my bike a little bit beside Turbo Steve's project. While the bark is freezing up, I was going to take my piece. I'm going to put some tape along the top here. Then I'm going to try to get this in exact position and run a ballpoint pen along here. Then put some tape on the opposite side so that the only thing exposed will be the part that I want to glue, and I want to tack glue that in place. I just want to put just enough glue to get it tacked. Then I can final fit once I get that I know it's going to be okay. I could get all these edges to be finalized, and then the last thing I have to trim this back. See, the problem is a lot of this stuff, this whole restoration depends on getting the steps right, because before I can rip the bike apart, I want to have this in place and know that I'm happy with it. Now, as I'm walking past, going out to the garage, Turbo Steve's tank is drying up like a lizard in the sun. So if you follow the steps, I just put on some ordinary masking tape. I'm going to slide this in position so that the only part that's exposed, this will be the part, it'll be the reverse image of this. Then I'll have to trim the tape back just to expose. I just want to expose the area where the glue is going to go when I tack glue that in position. So let me show what I'm talking about now. I put this in position. I just got a rough amount of how I want that to fit. And then as I take it away, I know this is going to be my glue area that I'm able to glue it on. Now I just have to determine if this is going to have, I'm going to sand it so there'll be a roughness, because this is going to be a structural joint. Then I'll have to put a reinforcement, a carbon fiber reinforcement behind it. But because I can get my hand back there, that should be no problem at all. So just to keep from getting glue on everything, I covered that. Now this is the area that's exposed for a glue seam. So what I want to do is take this over and make sure I have, when I just see the edge of that, because I'm going to do this off the motorcycle. In fact, I'll do it down a cellar. And that this all lines up relatively close. And if anything, if it's wrong, it should be wrong on the tight side, but I don't want it loose that I have a 1/4 inch gap somewhere. But what I'll do then, if the joint, when I make this temporary joint, if I don't like it, I can heat it with a heat gun, and I can just move it very slightly. Epoxy, until it really cures, and actually even after it cures, you can do it to a certain degree. You can do that, because we changed the pitch in the model airplane propellers by heating them in boiling water and then just letting them cool. Oh, it's time to get the bark out of the refrigerator. So I've got to look at, now that I have this off, I know exactly how much of that is going to go up under there. And what I'll do, I'll get some 5-minute epoxy and just tack glue it in place. And then go back outside, put the piece back in. This part comes right off, by the way. And it's about a $25 part in case I screw it up, or if I decide to make this and just cover this whole thing with carbon fiber twill, which is one of the thoughts I had. I really like that idea. I just don't have any twill here. I'd have to order some. But that's for a future decision. Today, it's time to make more bark. Anytime you make any epoxy joint, the main thing is to get a tooth. If you try to glue two very smooth pieces together, that's probably not going to hold. It's not going to stand the test of time. If you take and roughen it up, this is 180 grit paper, but it doesn't really matter. You could use 60 grit. The idea is to roughen it up. And we'll roughen both sides, and oh, even more important, the plastic part. So I know this has to be roughened from, and I've marked carefully where it goes. Okay, it goes all the way up to the edge, but I'm only going to be able to catch it on an edge here right now. At this point in time, I can only catch it, but then when I put the final amount of epoxy in there, once I'm happy this is in the right spot, I want that epoxy to get a good grip. And then I'll have to make some kind of a reinforcement back here. So the point is I may as well get it all roughened up right now. This will be a good time to do it. Now the nice thing about this is it's not going to change the way the motorcycle comes apart. Sometimes you add a piece like this and then you paint yourself into a corner where every time you want to take the seat off or something, you got to take the part off. This will be absolutely no extra maintenance to get the bike apart. And when that goes back, I'm just going to get a couple of drops of epoxy, 5-minute epoxy, and just tack glue that and hold it in place. What we're using is PROJECT 5-minute epoxy. This is very good for this. Excellent, in fact. PROJECT.KARYN if you need to order it. I like their 5-minute epoxy for one reason. It's made out of good quality epoxy. It's not the cheesy stuff you see in a lot of other stores, big box stores especially. You buy the stuff that's already out of code. Okay, so what I'm doing is just painting this part. That's why one reason I have the tape on the part. I don't want to have to sand off a lot of epoxy when I'm done here, but I can basically paint the whole thing here. That'll be no problem at all. It's only really going to catch on the edge, but this'll be fine. And I've got to paint this area. And I don't want to make this a messy joint if I can possibly help it. So now I can get this out of here, get this out of here. And now I have to do what's called babysitting. I have to hold this in position for 5 minutes and I don't know what, whistle a tune. So I'm going to give that joint 5-10 minutes more to dry. It's dry already. And then I'm going to put some tape along here and then go out, because I don't want it to pop off. And go out to the garage and make sure I've got all the fits very close to what I want. And I know I have to trim some of that back. Once I have that, because that may be a little bit on an angle one way or another, if I know it's not, then I have a little trough, a little ditch back here, and I'll just fill it with epoxy, let it dry, and then put a carbon fiber reinforcement over this. I want that to be good and strong, because nothing's, this is really nice. The way this part attaches, it snaps in, and one screw holds it on. And then I've got to decide if I'm going to put twill on it, or paint it, or put who knows what. I've got all the choices. So what's the final step here? Is this bark, B-A-R-K, or B-A-R-Q-U-E?
B-A-R-K.
It was like bark a dog. So you break it up, and then you have to have your husband just
try it.
Crunch, crunch. Right, perfect. How much fun is that? Almost as much fun as making carbon fiber parts or painting Turbo Steve's tank. Except we get to eat it. We're really not going to go eat Turbo Steve's tank. Now that worked out just couldn't be better. I've got the clearance I want around here, and I don't want these parts touching. This part here, I just need to trim a little bit up there. Just you can see the tiny amount, and I already had pre-marked it. I'll trim that with a little piece of sandpaper. This piece edges out just right. And that's the piece Kawasaki should have made. Now wouldn't it be funny, this is an 11-year-old bike. If I look on the internet and see like 3 years later they made a part, I made a change to that part. Anyway, doesn't matter, they're not paying me either way. So we're at this point, and we're at a really good watershed moment here. We've got most of the trim laid out. Still need the graphic. I actually still could ride the bike. I could ride the bike with that piece there if I wanted to. And I might do that if we ever get a riding day or whatever. We never know. Today actually would have been a riding day, but it was the call of the Turbo Steve tank that did me in. So in the end, that's all it has to be trimmed for a perfect fit. Perfect there. And boy, when I've done the concept sketches and put that piece in with an ink marker, changed the whole look of the bike. And some people don't care, I understand that, but that's okay. Some people don't like bark. So this tape, the only purpose it is so when I turn this over, now I know it lines up well, I'm going to take epoxy and using it as a ditch, just let it fill the ditch. I'll just let it drip in there, hit it with a hairdryer, and it'll build me up the equivalent of a good glue joint. Then I'll make that carbon fiber piece for the top of here, and I think that'll be just as strong as, well, it doesn't have to be any stronger than that. But again, I still have that idea that I might want to get carbon twill. The carbon twill bends around corners a lot nicer, and make this so it has one big, and put a super ultra high gloss finish on it. And it may ultimately be one of the defining parts of the restoration. I don't know. But if I don't like it, I'm $25 away from hitting the reset button. The objective is just the new glue that we've mixed, just fill a trough with glue. And what we're actually doing here is just filling a ditch. Now, I purposely made one side of this without trying to do two sides at once, which I think is always the best way to do it, because if it turns out this was the harder of the two sides to make, the more difficult, and if we were going to have some issue that I wasn't aware of, I'd want to have it right now before I ruin two parts. And again, I always try to make this that it's like the thing of evil twins. I want to always be able to go back, and if I, for some reason, don't like it, or who knows what, and boy, you never know what, that's the problem. Old motorcycles, old houses, my God, there's a surprise. Every day you turn around is a surprise. Now any of the heat, I'll just let that get thinner and thinner, go down in, and do exactly what I want it to do. And that's why I have the tape on the other side. The whole idea of the tape is so it doesn't come dripping out here like a bunch of icicles. And don't forget, the heat accelerates the cure of anything two-part, really. No different if it's paint or epoxy. It accelerates the cure rate. And once this dries, I'll be really, really confident that I think we have a keeper part here. See, I wasn't really sure. In fact, I'm still not sure. But I always like to look at things and think about things and come back the next day and look at them again and have another cup of coffee and then decide I like it. And of course, always get Karen to give me her input, which is super invaluable. Okay, now that should be, right now, should be building a nice filling in of the ditch. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to cut my little carbon fiber reinforcement piece here. Easy peasy. Trim it to size and just laminate it in with 5 minutes. So there is the final part, and one more absolute positive fitting to make sure I've already ground this edge. Make sure I have that nice fit and finish around here, even though this is not a round thing, this is an egg shape, and I have taken into account this. I've got a nice glue seam here. I didn't have anything drip down on, and the reinforcement in the back, which you don't see, but it's plenty strong, done with the carbon fiber, of course. So that part now, we're a final fit away from, and then what I do is I'm going to back mask this and just put a coat of clear on this so I can see what that's going to look like. I can just envision it better before I make up the other side. Well, that really exactly what I had in mind. That really, If you're a person that looks at a motorcycle and you appreciate the beauty of the lines and the angles and the edges, and that is the piece Kawasaki forgot to make. I ought to sell it to them. Then they did the same thing on the other side. They forgot to complete the box, complete the whole picture, and we will take care of that, of course. But for now, I'm really happy with the way that piece worked out. I can't tell you, just a small piece like that, change your whole motorcycle. Now, if you're making your first carbon fiber part, you could always start with something like on this bike. I made the clock mount pretty much the same as we made that side cover. Remember I was talking about the carbon fiber key? This is unbelievable. Yep, never throw the scraps away. That's the carbon fiber key extension for the 750. Now this is the material I want to get to, if I cover that whole thing with twill. This is called twill. I want to use that. I don't have any now. And that's the material I use to make the R1 exhaust. Now this is another part, if you're looking for making a simple part, and I just can't tell you, that's as easy as peasy. Just everything you've seen on the last couple of videos, you should be able to make that part. But where the carbon fiber is really useful is two things. When you need to do a repair, especially like on this bike, it was just unbelievable how much repair there is. Or when you get the little tabs and tangs that constantly break off and you can make them reinforced with carbon fiber, way better than plastic. So it looks like I have just enough time to backmask this and put a coat of clear on that and get a look at how that's going to look. And that's going to be it before we got to go head out and get Miles. Everything is drying up out here, and we are right on schedule to go eat some bark or eat Steve's tank, one or the other. And actually that part really came out pretty nice. But see, the point is, you never know until you make the part and even put the clear on. You never know, and you never know once you put it on a bike if you're going to like it. So the whole idea is always do it that you can undo it if all of a sudden you change your mind. And we still don't know if we're going to cover that with twill, with more carbon fiber, but I know I got to make the other side in the next couple days. So, and finish Steve's tank, and I got to eat up all that bark. So hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for eating bark.